I don't believe that balance exists. I believe it's wholeness.
I'm whole to begin with, but I have work to do.
Wholeness to me is being able to be your own bridge to your heart, through your heart.
Today, I was completely thrilled to be able to talk with Carol Tuttle. She has been an influence in my life since I began my work over a decade ago, and it feels like a turning point for me to be able to sit with her and to have this conversation. She is the author of so many amazing books. She is honestly step one in transformation in my world, in my life, and I was so thrilled to get to meet her. Be sure to utilize all that she offers. She has so many resources for you, and I am thrilled to announce that she is going to be one of our experts, and you will begin to see some of her content in the Wholeness Library. The Wholeness Library is full of all sorts of techniques and topics that help you find your wholeness on a daily basis. Also, thank you so much for rating and reviewing this podcast. It really helps a lot, and it helps our message spread further and wider. So let's get started with Carol Tuttle.
It really started in the late 80s when my life was really beyond messy. I know there's stressed moms, and I was in a severe mental health condition. I can honestly say I had undiagnosed suicidal depression. And now I've since had diagnoses over the years, but at the time, that wasn't talked about in the late 80s. It was still very much closeted. I, on my own, sought out a psychotherapist because my life was so just riddled with rage. I'd get triggered constantly. I had 4 children, 6 and under. Our marriage, and we'd only been together like 7 years, and it was just from the go, it was a challenge and very hard. And like my sort of belief at the time, was, well, if you do what's right, everything will be hunky-dory. And that was not the case, because as far as doing life, I was a master. I could pull off all kinds of stuff, by the what didn't exist in the day, but the Instagram version of me would have looked real sweet, but behind the scenes, it was really ugly. And I knew my life was affecting my children's life dramatically. It was my commitment to my children that led me to really pray with great kind of fury in a way, because I was angry at the fact that why is my life so hard? Why do I not even want to live? And not even understanding depression yet, like I do now. I'm an expert in what that takes to heal, but it was just a piecing together over the years. And what led me into the more alternative work was after I'd exhausted my 2.5 years of psychotherapy and put a lot of the pieces together, what I was dealing with. And unbeknownst to me, how much my childhood and trauma in my childhood had really left me in this broken state. John Bradshaw was my Carol Tuttle, I could say. I've been, that person that's really helped make sense of things and help turn people's lives around at this point. He was my sort of the author that spoke to me in a way that once I started practicing what he taught, I started to see some progress. And so in 91, even though I had my life story pretty well pieced together, I was still this broken person. And I really said to God, I will do whatever I have to do, but I want to heal. Mm-hmm. I want to be well. If the atonement, as I understood it and how it'd been taught in my life, is a legit thing, then I want to be the recipient of that. What do I got to do? And interesting enough, I was led to learn energy healing, starting with Reiki in 91. I'm like, hey, I was desperation. I always tell people, well, when you get desperate enough, you'll get really open. But it really was an answer to prayer. And I was led to this body of work with a group of women that I had connected with in a 12-step group I'd been in for over 2 years, that we decided we were going to learn Reiki. Well, I didn't know enough at the time that what I was doing was healing my chakra energy, my 7 primary chakra energy, which now I know altered my life course, completely put me on my path. Because by 1995, I had my master's level certification in rapid eye therapy. I launched a private practice. So I was in private practice before I went online, but I went online very early. I knew that my one-on-one coaching and group work that I was doing with individuals was really just prepping me for a much bigger audience. And I could tell that as things started to unfold in the online world, that was the space I'd be led. And I launched my first website in 2000. My first book came out in 93. As a member of my own religious group, I was to this day, the only person that's spoken of healing from sexual abuse within a strict religious system and how you navigate that, because there's actually quite a bit of, at the time, in the early 90s, it was not something they wanted you talking about.
Right.
There's a lot of, on top of that, than spiritual abuse in you, if you made any movement to talk about or get well dealing with this childhood trauma. So I've never been someone that positioned myself to speak for or against my particular religious body, which has always been a smart move of mine. It's been, I'm going to teach what I know from my experience without pointing the finger at anybody. It's my journey. And I've gone on now, 30 years later, to have written 10 books and reached literally millions of people online and prolific body of content.
Yeah.
I'll say we have 3 main brands. There's three doorways people find me nowadays. There is the energy healing. I have several books that really relate to that. And my website is just caroltuttle.com. There's that brand. And I have a very prolific, it houses all my courses. We call it the Carol Tuttle Healing Center. We have 16 courses that you have access to with a membership. So rather than selling individual courses, we made it cheaper and more accessible for you to just go get the library.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the big player right now would be Dressing Your Truth. It does have a connection with energy.
Yes, it does.
We can get to that. And then the other brand is the Child Whisperer. It's a body of work where my book, the only product I sell in that world is my book, The Child Whisperer, but it's turned a lot of parent-child relationships around for the better.
Yeah,
so
me
it's
me
a best
included.
seller.
Yeah, me included.
Yeah, so you'll find me people will recognize me or see me or go, you look familiar. You may have seen my Facebook ad. We're going after moms and women over 40 that don't like the way they look, let's just say.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Well, I laugh because in 1992, you went to Reiki. I was the same thing in 2013.
Yeah. No, I was early.
Yeah. You were early.
I was a guy. I mean, I had that. I'm definitely there's those that were before me, but I'm the first wave of those of us in the baby boomer group that were, the ones of us that took the lead on the alternative and the kind of woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
Was in that group, no question. And I was one of the first to really show up online and take it to the internet.
You were for years, anytime you type in any kind of chakra, you're gonna show up.
I'm gonna show up. Yeah. I liked those days.
Yeah.
Now I got every other influencer pitching their life coaching practice.
It's true. It's true. That's right. That's right. I took the Master Energy Healing course. Actually, I was
through Mind Valley.
I did. I did that. And
I published several things with another company called Mind Valley because we just didn't have the gunpowder and the resources really to support all my work. So we opted to do my more alternative stuff, publish it through Mind Valley, let us build our foundation for Dressing Your Truth. And once we got that all going, I left Mind Valley and brought it all back into my space, which is where it all is now.
Yeah. Yeah. I
didn't love their marketing tactics. I'm not a scare you, you're gonna or else person.
Right. I know.
willing to do that.
I agree. I totally
I'm not
agree.
going to sell you on the fact that I'm going to 100% guarantee every aspect of your life. I mean, I know I can improve the quality of your life.
Right.
I can guarantee
Right.
that. Is it going to, yeah, it's not going to be necessarily easy for everybody. You've got to show up. There's some work to do.
Right. Yeah, there's a mixture of showing up, and there's a mixture of compassion, and there's a mixture of listening to yourself. It all comes
I want to
together.
teach people to be their own wellness expert, quite honestly.
Yes.
Your own fashion expert, your own wellness expert. I'm still there because I do feel we need mentors and support in our world.
Mm-hmm.
And they're far and few between, really, that you can legitimate. I have a vast life experience now. I'll be 66 in 2 months. And I trust me over the 35-year-old 100%. I've had to walk it, and I've had to learn it, and I've had to implement it. And I do walk my talk.
Yeah.
I'm very much an ethical person. I can't sell you on something that I can't personally believe in, So
yeah. Like I said, I've been along for about a decade. I was doing my thing, being the mom, doing my thing, same thing. Life crashes at you. Where do you go? Get on your knees and say, you get to the point where I'll do anything, same thing. I'll do anything to feel better. I'll do anything. And
crummy. I've felt crummy a lot of my life.
Yeah. And
great now.
I know. In fact, that's one of the things. The last few years, I have seen you take even a step higher. Like you have really.
You tell, huh? You just telling how I show up. My whole. I just am. I'm settled into me, and I've worked very hard to get to a place where I live a very. I'm legitimately at peace and happy, and I feel good physically.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, you're living your best life. I mean, and it was already doing well, but it's like you can just tell, like it leveled up, and it's just.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been really.
I'm your gal too. If you need a mentor for how to age, because I'm cracking the stereotypes on that one, because it's always kind of dumbfounded me that what do you wake up one day and you just start acting old, talking
right?
Old? I don't get it, So I'm really committed to catching myself in stereotypical thinking or cultural ageisms and going, why would I choose that?
Yeah, I agree. When we were moving, my sister was like, well, you got to move on a level so that you don't have to go up and down the stairs. And I was like, why would you stop yourself?
Know that there's a great documentary on Netflix about the gentleman that produced this, studied the areas of the world. There's like 6 or 7 of them where people live into their hundreds at a very high level of health.
Mm-hmm.
He came up with 9 common denominators for each of these areas. And one of them is mobility, because they live in more rural areas. They don't have much furniture, and they sit on the floor all the time, and they're getting up. So get rid of your sofa and make sure you have 3 floors.
Yeah. Right. I know. I'm like, if I have to move because I can't, then I'll move, but I'm not going to plant that in my beforehand.
That's in fact, you should be thinking in terms of, I need to keep myself moving.
Yes.
And sit on the floor and get up all the time, at least once a day.
That's right. And I feel like me and my husband, I said, look, if I'm going to be aching, I'd rather ache from movement than, you know what I mean?
There you go.
I mean, if
I'm
going to
work out.
Yeah, I'd rather do that. So I love it. Well, so I pulled up some of my books, my Remembering Wholeness, which we did a podcast on, like I did a podcast on like the 5 books that I would recommend for awakening. And that was one of the books, was that Remember to Wholeness. Cause it's just for people that are just beginning to see a little glimpse of that awakening and what that looks like. And when I say awakening, it's almost it's like coming home to yourself and realizing that you have agency and the ability to create in your life. Mm-hmm. Yes.
All this.
That's right.
Actually, last year I released a 20-year anniversary edition, or I guess it was 2021. And it's really more pertinent now than when I first published it in the year 2000. It's really speaks to our current experience on the planet. It's very, very helpful. To help you kind of navigate the crazy and the unfamiliar and the the background noise is louder than ever as far as a world in crises. It can be very depressing very quickly. And you've
Yeah.
got to learn how to become. I have a quote: we all live in the same world, but we're free to create our own reality. And that's really the message and what I teach in Remembering Wholeness is you're a part of this bigger experience. So much you can't do anything about, but you have such great influence in the sphere of your own reality. And what I thought, what if the challenge is not even how do I survive? It's how do I create joy amidst a lot of sorrow and suffering? How do I maintain that position as a person, to be one of joy and gratitude?
For sure. And I like the way, there's lots of books you can read, lots of gurus, but what I've really appreciated about your book is, you hear like you're the creator of your life, and then okay, but you actually give us something to do it. You know what I mean? You give us a next step.
About practical application.
Yes. And you're
what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing is sometimes it would be frustrating because it's like, okay, because I feel like sometimes we can easily go to shame if we're just told you create your life, the end, it's like, well, then what do I do? What do I do?
You got to understand it from a couple perspectives too, because nobody's like, yeah, right, I want to create all this pain and anguish. And I'm like, well, you have to understand there's the soul's perspective. You're at whatever level of consciousness you are as an adult currently, then there's the inner child's perspective. And those are 3 points of view that are very different. And it's like your soul's, once you get in touch with your soul's perspective of your journey through this experience, you understand a lot of why you would create hard lessons and challenges that was for your own benefit and growth, and that you trust that more. Then a lot of it just becomes habit. That's the problem. Most people are struggling and suffering due to habit because they don't understand how to consciously create that which sustains joy. And that's my bigger message of the book is we teach you how to shift from surviving life to creating it. And a lot of people get tripped up on, well, where's God fit into the whole equation? And everything in my book is really marrying a Christian point of view with a more esoteric approach to life. And where does God fit? That when your will is aligned with God's will, with the belief that God wants the very best for you, then magic happens. That's when miracles occur. So you've just got to trust that what that the impulses, inspirations, desires you have are God's will for you.
Yeah.
That's coming to you from a higher source, that you're good, you're lined up. So let's do this, let's create it.
Yeah. I remember where I was driving on the road, listening to that book for the first time and hearing this, there was a section, I said it several times, but in several places, but it was like in a prayer, I'm going to just express gratitude as if I had already received it.
Right.
Like that was the first kind of one of those opening moments to me where it's like, I am a co-creator. I am not asking permission as much as we're walking together and creating, it was like a whole shift in my perspective about how I could show up in my own life.
Yeah.
And it was huge, just huge.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
huge.
those shifts usually stick for people. It's it's like you're now kind of a soul alignment with your own your human experience is now plugged into that soul understanding, and you just don't ever alter from it. It's like you get it from that point on.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. You just become, it was just.
That's just practice.
Yeah.
Catching yourself in the old habits and stuff and saying, oh, okay, I don't need to do that anymore.
Yep, for sure. And I loved how, so going back and listening to Remembering Wholeness, and I picked up that, and I don't know if I knew this when I read it the first time, but mastering affluence is a part 2 to that book, right. which I'm like, I don't know if I remembered that the first couple times around when it first came out.
Yeah, it was sort of now a practice experience in 6 areas of your life. Like, let's really get into zero in on these 6 areas that you're experiencing on a daily basis, which is your inner world, which I teach is your spiritual experience, how to create spiritual affluence,
Mm-hmm.
mental affluence, emotional affluence. Then we move to our outer world of physical affluence, health, and well, that quality. And then there's money, financial affluence, and relationship affluence.
Mm-hmm.
So I took those 6 daily, most people are dealing with all 6 of those on a daily function.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know, rather than try and shift? That's the other thing with a lot of what's taught out there in theory. It's like, well, where do I start? And I'm like, well, let's zero in on one area.
Yeah.
Let's really target it, make a shift there.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll move on to the next, to do it in pieces and parts, not your whole life.
Right. Yeah, I remember. So I had about 2008, 2009, I started to shed some weight, went through a weight loss, and it was a mind shift. It was a whole shift.
Yeah.
And people are asking, what did you do? How did you do it? And I was even in Women's Health magazine talking about it.
Awesome.
And
that's a legit media publication.
Yeah, it was great, but it took it back then in I think that was 2013, trying to describe how it wasn't just what I ate. It wasn't just what I did.
That inner change.
It was that interchange.
We start every year in my healing center. Most years we start with a course I call the weight loss cure, and the whole focus is on that work.
Yeah.
It's on a diet. Nobody's given a workout plan. The entire 4-week course is cleaning up old programming, years, decades of self-shaming, issues with food and patterns with food, emotions that are all now tied in with food. It's just this inner cleanse of let's get, and then your body's free.
Yeah.
The other stuff more successfully. Now let's try a different eating protocol.
Right.
I feel like working out. Okay, let's start that. You're like freed up to do it.
Yes, totally. It's like a yes, I want to instead of I should or I must.
Right. Dragging around all that other stuff.
Yeah. And as I was sitting there thinking about how do I explain this to people, I had this vivid moment where it was, we talk about emotional eating, and this like voice almost was like, what if emotional eating put weight? It was like this weird thing in the emotional body. You know what I mean? Like, what if it really does
weigh it down?
Yeah. What if it weighed it down? Yeah, you get it. And so that's when my body, mind, spirit, soul, mental, emotional, spiritual. So when your book came out, it was a big affirmation to me about my work and dealing with those areas of our experience. So going back again and reading that book or the affluence. So I loved the way affluence. I liked that that was different. The word affluence versus abundance, which I love abundance. But tell me, what is the difference between those two? How do those?
Well, when you understand, and I teach this in Remembering Wholeness, the universe is abundant is the title of the chapter for understanding this, is that you can only experience anything abundantly. The universe only knows how to create an abundance. It's not something you have to learn. It's a given. It is the way it plays out. You're either going to continue to experience an abundance of struggle within that, abundance of pain, abundance of debt, abundance of arguments with a kid, abundance of disdain with a spouse, whatever, you name your abundance. What do you got an abundance of that's not what you want?
Right.
So, or you can learn how to create the good stuff you want in abundance. It's just the spectrum. Where are you at with it? Do you want an abundance of feeling good, of peaceful body, pain-free? You want abundance of harmony in relationships. You want a close relationship with all your children. And you can say, I understand them all. I love them all. We have close bonds. Do you want abundance of money always flowing in and accumulating? And so to me, affluence represented what we tend to call abundance, when I wanted to teach that one's a given. Let's focus on the affluence of things being the things we desire to be in abundance, to be affluent in our lives. Affluency doesn't necessarily, you have to give it a designation. You could certainly say I have an affluence of pain, but we tend to think of it in the terms of being affluent means to be well off. We tend to think with money, oh, they're very affluent, but it can be anything. You're well off in so many things. being rich includes money's the kind of foundational thing. I nicknamed our planet Money because everything's operating on money. You got to have the money thing figured out. I have a really good course in the Healing Center called the 30-Day Money Cure. And I've seen people majorly change their whole experience with money through this course. And they have taken it from an abundance of debt and struggle and lack of money coming in to an abundance and affluence with money.
Mm-hmm.
So once you got that one dialed in, usually the next one is weight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or pain. Those
Yeah.
Which one? Pain, weight, or money? Which is bigger? What's in your face right now? And so, when I started my career, I knew no one's going to buy energy healing. They don't even know what it was, in 1995. What? Run the other way. I had to market being able to heal or change. There were three things I could help you with: pain, money, and relationships.
Yeah.
I will help you improve any one or all three of the above. That's what I marketed.
Yep. Smart.
And we just use these tools. Okay. Then
Yeah.
some kind of different stuff to approach it than you're used to. We're not going to sit here and talk about it. We're gonna start cleaning it up from the subconscious mind.
Yeah. And that was the way I kind of thought about it. It was like, the difference between energy healing and something else is that it's the senses, it's the body that gets involved. It brings it into the experience. And that's why it's so helpful. I just think it's,
well, you get needed. Right to how the system works at the quantum level. It's all energy. Your thoughts are a vibration of energy. Emotions are energy and motion. And you're starting to alter those, You're training your brain how to think, what you want it to think. You're cleaning up the emotional energy, the emotional body that is tied to your brain. Mm-hmm. And you're creating a whole new inner world of by doing that. It's interesting. I get a lot of people that it's new to them. I kind of make the woo-woo make sense. So, and you can find God in my world real easily. And if that's not your setup, that's cool too, because it's not critical. I'm not offended if somebody has a completely opposite belief system than mine. I just know my tools work.
Right. Yeah. We say at the Wholeness
Network. Get hung up on the semantics or worldview.
That's right. That's right. It's vocabulary, and
my goal is to help you become really show up in who you're meant to be on this planet, make a difference in the world. And we turn, I'm not trying to save the world. I never set out to be like, we got to save the world. I'm like, well, I'll help you and your family. I know I can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. When you add it all up, that ultimately will save the world. But
right.
That's not what I signed on for. I'm like, I agreed to help individuals, mainly women, and those women change their families.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we're like, I want people to just feel better. Like it's as simple as that, just to feel they feel better.
I'm okay if you don't. I mean, I'm okay if you choose not to.
Right.
I'm okay with that too.
That's true. You're right.
Do this.
Right. Isn't that interesting though? Because it is just a matter of, that's one of the core things is it's like, you will do the most help for yourself when you allow yourself to choose to choose for yourself. Do you know what I mean? To actually make a choice or be involved in owning your life. That's half the, sometimes we think life runs us and things come at us.
You can even show up in my world as a skeptic, and
Yep.
In fact, you showed up and you're willing to give it a shot. I know if you follow any of my courses, if you go through them and really trust when I teach you the ins and outs of what we're doing, and you just do the work, you'll see the benefit, even if you don't think it should work. It's fine.
Yep. It's true. We always tease. We're trying to make the woo woo just woo or wow. Our real goal is to move into wow because
there you go. That's right.
What it is.
Woo woo to wow.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, another so the one you talked about, the child whisperer. I just wanted to talk about that for a second because I think, I mean, it was so fascinating. to recognize. I was toward the end of having my kids when I read this book. They were all born at that point, and fascinating to see how much of a better parent I could be to understand their innate energy, the way that they show up in the world. I remember my daughter, to recognize she was the type that liked to have more movement going on, a lot more movement going on, and so I could recognize that was like better for her, and
Right.
so you talked about that. Yeah, that's something that you do, that one of the places people meet you is through children.
The basis of that body of work, and actually it lends itself to the Dressing Your Truth brand as well, as I have what I call energy profiling, is a 4 types profiling system that has its origin in the concept of energy, because as I teach it, it's an energy, a design of our nature that we're born with, not a personality, not a developed quality of character traits. It's literally an energetic expression that is our primary expression of self that we're born with. Even in utero, it's developing, because each one of my daughters and daughters-in-law have successfully known their children's energy type prior to birth, because they've been part of this body of work for so many years. I started to teach it close to 20 years ago, and I can briefly share the 4 types of movement. But what it does then, once you understand your dominant energy type and the fashion side of it, I teach you what I call the 5 elements of dressing your truth. What design lines, patterns, textures, fabrication, and colors. They're all movement. They're all an expression of movement, which will look best on you. So when you're choosing garments and putting together a style, you'll do it from that place of honoring you. And it's phenomenally life-changing in how you look and how you feel in your clothing. The days of, women, I decided God and, this was in the early 2000s when I really felt being not even commissioned, but invited to teach this material that was starting to be formula, the inspiration I was getting, understanding. Most typing systems, personality profiling systems are a 4 category reference. So I was looking at some other systems, but all of a sudden I'm starting to see this from a point of view as someone that's worked with energy now, and from a very different concept of movement. And I was starting to receive these inspirations and understandings. It was like, will you teach this? We need you to take this out and teach this in the world. And what I came to realize, that it wasn't because I needed to help women just do better at shopping. It was at the core of their wounding was this whole self-shaming, body shaming point of view that we have in modern day America, especially. That we're ugly, that we're unattractive, that starts right now around age 10, 11, because I have a granddaughter that's entering that phase of her life, and we're kind of intercepting her to not go there, because we know, and she knows, to go, these are my attributes, this is what I look best in, I feel amazing, and I'm not even going to start that script for myself. But it is one of the most wounding self-deprecating practices women have in our time. Our modern era is almost I've never met a woman that doesn't do it or have that negative, that self-shaming opinion about herself. If she goes in a dressing room and so doesn't look good, it's not because, it's not the right design lines and textures and fabrics. It's like, I'm too fat, I'm not attractive, I'm getting old, blah, blah, blah. They're the fault. The fashion world has said, when you don't look good, it's because of you. It's not our trends and whatever's on trend and whatever styles they're in. They should work. They work. You don't work. And I flip that whole conversation around. I free women up. I get them to leave that, heal that once and for all, to say, it was never me. And I just never understood my type of beauty. And now I do. And now I got skills. I say I make the fashion world useful to you now, and enjoy it. You're getting dressed every day.
Yeah.
It's not like working out. You have to, it's optimal. dressing, unless you never leave your house, is something you gotta do.
Right.
I say it's never about the clothes. It's about self-care and self-affirmation. That's what dressing your truth is, once you understand your entire experience with it.
Yeah. To give permission to people to, especially women. I mean, to look in the mirror and say, I look great. Like,
I have women in their 60s, 70s says, for the first time in my life, I feel like I look beautiful.
Wow.
It's kind of sad. At the same time, it's glorious.
Yeah.
Was that girl though? I am that product of our modern day supermodel era. I was 12 in 1969 when Twiggy came on the scene, which was really legitimately the first supermodel. She wouldn't even make it as a supermodel these days because she was definitely skinny, like they like to be today, like and look today. She wasn't quite tall enough, but that's when it launched around the late 60s, the supermodel marketing. It's still going crazier than ever. We're not looking to it. It's pure entertainment for anybody if they're interested, but it certainly isn't a practical reference to say, what do I wear today?
Right.
But we are stuck with what they sell in the stores, unless there's so much merchandise around though. I mean, I produce a lot of videos and I produce a lot of reels showing different looks. And we do a lot with just our free stuff. And I'm kind of over the buying and accumulating a lot of expensive clothes. Well, I was never into expensive clothing, but I honestly find a lot of my things at consignment stores and used clothing. I'm all about the used clothing lately. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. I know it's like a more of a win when you find a good thing.
Yeah. So we in that space, even though it's about, by the first pass, you'll think it's about just fashion. It really is a body of work that's deeply healing for women.
It really is. It really is.
That puts everything, healing is the point, is the same. Everything comes down to that.
Yep. Yeah. Right.
I'm helping you heal.
Right. I know. Like I say, I mean, it is possible for you women listening to look in the mirror and say, I look fabulous. There's nothing.
Oh, and if you're over 50, I'm your gal. I'm going to help you go, whoa, man, I can look really, women don't want to look trendy like they're trying to be younger. I always say youth is not the goal here. Youth is oversold when it comes to our appearance, that beauty equals youth. It's like that. We get pitched that every day. And the deal is, I even said to somebody, I was at the TSA line and the guy was like exaggerating. He's like, you look 21. I'm like, well, I really don't. But I said, just so you know, I'm not going for looking younger. I just want to look fit and healthy at my age. Yeah, I really do. I want to look like someone that's figured it out. Like, there's a confident woman. Well, that woman knows what's going on. She really got put herself together. She's got it, not because I'm better than you, not because I want to go on into my 70s feeling good.
Yeah.
Why not?
Right.
Looking good. Why not look good?
Yep. I'm turning 50 next year. I'm hitting that big 50.
Yeah. See,
and
I that space.
That's right. It's got the space. And that's the thing is I'm like, you know what? I want people to know that I love myself.
Yeah. You better go cut your hair. You're hitting 50.
Right.
Yeah. So just
right. Yeah.
We decided you're a type 3 also.
Yes. Yeah. So
maybe a little different. You always have of the 4 types.
Yeah.
Type 1 is an upward light movement, buoyant, more just perky, has kind of lives life a little bit of a bounce, bright-eyed. This is the bright animated woman. Yes. Type 2 is the more subtle, soft, moving downward. This is your Jennifer Aniston. Ellen DeGeneres would be type 1. This is your quality of being a calming influence and just more subdued energy. Type 3 is a push forward, more assertive, not at all very much considered a feminine expression in my timeline. I had to heal that one because type 1 and 2 were the cultural stereotype of the feminine. I call a yin energy, a very soft, light, gentle energy. I'm a very yang energy, which is a push. I'm the Amelia Earhart. That's why she's 3-4. She was applauded because she lived by her own standard, but it was makeup in her that really set her out to do what she did when it wasn't necessarily the norm.
Right.
She had a big drive, and type 3s have a big drive. And then type 4 is our bold, stunning, reflective quality of a woman that's got a lot of poise and a lot of symmetry, exactness. And your secondaries will tweak things a bit. Like I would think you're a 3 with a secondary 2.
Mm.
Can wear this kind of the longer lob with the texture. You don't have to cut your hair because that secondary 2 gives you, but if it was all really S curvy, you're leading with, you've got to make sure you lead with your dominant, with hair, with clothing, and the secondary throws in a subtle influence. Where I'm a 3/4, I'm going to have much more sleekness to my whole look and appearance and how I approach. You'll be the type 3 that pushes forward with a more of a gentle awareness, where I'm the type 3 that pushes forward with a more blunt.
Hey, we need all types. That's right. You put all the types together, you get a 10. So we need all the types.
That's right. We do need all 4. Everyone has a certain gift. And do you have It's Just My Nature? That's the other.
I do.
Yes. It teaches this from an adult point of view, but you learn a lot about yourself and your people in your life to stop projecting on unreasonable expectations. Now, they might still trigger you, but you can at least say, well, that's just how they're made.
Yeah, well, it's funny because so I think at the time I came in and I didn't know for sure, so I scheduled like a small, like a quick little to like confirm what I thought, I guess. But it was back, I looked it up, I think it was in 2014.
Those days are gone.
Yeah, and I think during that time, I think I was still in my depression. So I thought I was more of a 4 because that stillness, because I just felt so it was interesting when you said a 3. I kind of went, okay, because also recently I've seen you more. Well, it's been years, but that back then it was more of oranges and browns, and I've seen you show up, watching you with more of the reds and the blues.
This system has taught me over the years, continues to teach me. So I strive to be a role model for all 4 types in my social media role to show you that there's a lot more options than you think. And then I get translated into the 4 color season system way too often, where it is the fall, winter,
right,
spring, summer, which is not translatable in my world. That's a color system. Mine's much broader and more expansive than that. You can personalize it a lot more. My system.
Yeah, and I think and that's why the energy part of it is so. Because what's funny is like when she told me, I think she thinks you're a 3. I laughed because, I'm always like, I thought maybe because I do like to go against the grain. Like I like to do it. I like a little bit of the opposite. I like to, I like to break the rules or push the boundaries a little bit in my own little way. And so I would have thought maybe that was me, so I can see it now. I can see it. So it'll be interesting. I told my husband, I says, it's the time for a shopping spree. Sorry.
Yeah,
honey.
you'll have some fun with that. And we do in our world make it easy when it comes to makeup, jewelry. I have a big product line to access things so you're not second guessing, and we're constantly having sales. And the biggest thing I launched in the last 2 years was type 3s, particularly type 3s with a secondary 4 like me, have the most progressive aging in our skin, especially on our face. And about age 55, I was tanking when it came to my skin's health, and it was going downhill fast. And I tried the whole filler Botox route, and I'm like, man, I look like whacked out. I knew I knew I wanted a more natural look, and I knew as I aged, I couldn't keep correcting without restoring. Couldn't correct through superficial efforts without regenerative healing my skin. It's like you got to keep going more with more filler, more Botox,
right.
the skin's still tanking. So I
Mhm.
put it true to my type 3, pushed up my sleeves, and I started to really investigate skin health and really testing products and learning about skin and what it responded to, and I was my own guinea pig.
Mhm.
And I started to de-age myself big time. People started to notice it. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, and I started taking collagen, and I started using certain products. I started to understand, and I was spending a buku amount of bucks because they don't ever stack ingredients. It's like, you need this one and this one and this one.
Right.
And then I learned in the industry, because I'm really not in the skincare industry. I'm someone playing in that because I have a demographic that needs it and a dedicated audience. That I learned that they're hiking all the pricing up for two reasons. They've convinced us the more you pay, the more quality it is.
Right.
And they need marketing dollars because it's one of the most saturated marketing spaces around. And I was able to launch my own skincare line 2 years ago. That my goal was fewer products that work, that get results at affordable pricing. And I did it.
Wow.
It's just
Mhm.
exceptional.
Yeah.
And then as I looked just this year earlier, as my skin really responded favorably, my neck, you've got this face, second face, third face.
Yeah.
I say, you want to know a woman's true age? Look at her neck and her hands. Unless she's taking care of them, because you can't do aesthetically lips.
Right. Right.
You can't do a lot.
Right.
And I haven't had a facelift, and I've really been able to. I did have to do some really deep peels and some things to resurface, because it had just really. But the biggest change that I've seen improvement in is my restoring my volume back.
Mhm.
Not being so hollowed out and shrunken and loose skin because of it. But I, start looking at my crepey arms and crepey skin above my knees, and I'm like, okay, where's the anti-aging body lotion? Like, hello. So I started hunting down that, 2 years ago. I'm like, okay, where's that product? Well, I found a couple that were legit, that had, ingredients that were really effective.
Mhm.
Alastin makes one, but they were $220.
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, right. Nobody's gonna do this. Like,
Mhm.
this is your grocery budget for,
Right.
a month when
Right.
you're an empty nester.
Right. Right.
Sorry,
Right.
we're having ramen again. I had to get that body lotion. So I went to my manufacturer and we formulated our own, and I launched that in, I think it was March. And it's outstanding. It's one of the coolest things I've ever put on the market. And I love it. It's so good. It has a special ingredient called bakuchiol oil.
Okay.
Retinol is the in the hierarchy of ingredients, it's the number one kind of anti-aging ingredient, because it helps improve skin cell turnover. And your
Mhm.
skin cells all get lazy, and you've got to kick them into gear, and helps your collagen reboot. And yet it has photosensitivity, meaning you get really red, and it's pricey to put a bunch
Yeah.
of retinol on your body.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, my formulators, the lab I work with, said, well, we've just discovered this new ingredient that's kind of popular in certain parts of the world called bakuchiol oil, and has all the benefits of retinol without the photosensitivity, and it's a lot cheaper. So that's like my key ingredient in my anti-aging body
Mm.
lotion. And it's legit. I don't have it. It's in the bathroom, but
Yeah.
I love this stuff. I put a small pump on it with every other. I have six other products they sell, AM,
Mhm.
PM products, but I add a little bit of that to every other. I like superpower every product with this stuff now.
Okay. Well, where do
Oh,
we get that?
and these reviews are like, and if you don't have any of this, my PR manager, have Julia gift you
Okay.
the whole kit. I want you to
I'd love it.
test it out.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna buy. I
So
was like
that
gonna
turned
say,
50.
where do I buy it? I know, right? I know. And
This will be
it's
your birthday present. Happy birthday.
thank you,
Welcome into the
thank you. In
50
fact,
crowd.
yeah, today. So now that I'm a type 3, dynamic type 3, and a Sagittarius, because that's what you a Sag too?
Capricorn. I'm just.
Oh, are you kept? Okay, you're other one. Okay, well,
I climb that mountain, I will.
I know you will. I know, but you
That's
have
my
to be
deadline.
that.
I will beat it.
You will beat it, and you have to be that way to get
Oh my
to
God.
get
I've had
to
to
get
do what
me
I've done.
and
No,
to get
I've
me
had
to get there
just
too.
I live in a state that I wasn't raised here, and I am a member of the predominant faith in Utah. And my joke is God said in my early origins of my career, said, you can go two places, Utah or the Middle East. I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
I just need you to go where women are repressed and confused. Like, we'll go to Utah.
Well, you went to a good place. You've been
I have
much
reached
needed here.
women. I mean, we are primarily, we are strictly an online company now. We've had our days of our own brick and mortar and one store and that old deal. And we just said, we're going online. And we always did it. God really let us, because we did it before we had to be. I didn't have to shut it down. And I was already online and really established ourselves as a company that is globally reaching women all over. We predominantly reach women in the United States, but we have women in close to 150 countries that have gone through my programs, that a lot of them wish they could buy stuff because we can't ship because of their countries have kind of made it difficult.
Darn.
I went to South Africa. I had a trip a few years ago, 5-6 years ago. We went through South Africa, Johannesburg, and went on a safari up in Zimbabwe and Botswana, and we just had an overnight layover in Johannesburg. So we decided to do a little meet and greet there, thinking maybe 10 or 15, how often am I getting Johannesburg? And let's just do this for the people that may know me here. And we had 70 people show up.
Wow.
I said, why? And my son, who's in charge of all our social media marketing, well, the ads are really cheap in South Africa. We picked up a lot of fans because of social media dollars.
Okay.
I'm like, well, there you go. This is the world we live in.
That's right. Well, that's amazing. That is amazing.
I had the good fortune to go to Israel 3 years ago. What a beautiful country. And we did a meet and greet there. What a beautiful thing to see. And I just, again, pray. This is out of my hands. What can I do? I can pray. I can pray that God's will, there's all there's a lot of why this is all happening in today's world. And I say, I can't, I just pray and continue to help those I can help. But we had a meet and greet there, and we had Orthodox Jewish women, moms there. We had people that were not as Orthodox, but of the Jewish faith. We had Orthodox Christians there. We had, people that were just there. It was just such a crossroads of people. And I thought, I love the fact that I can offer something in the world where there's a common point of interest, although we all have different belief systems, but we can agree on these things.
Yeah.
Because they are making a difference. And that was a very lovely experience that really showed me, because, I'm behind a computer a lot of the time, but it's nice to talk with someone.
Yes. True.
Conversation. Go. Thank you. I'm glad.
True. Yes. And see the impact you're making. And that's so amazing. Well, personally, I'm just, you've just been part of my journey. In fact, I got my star chart done, and I remember her saying a couple years ago, you had a mentor enter your life and said you on a trajectory. And I've had a friend that kind of introduced me into you. So maybe it's her, but it was your work that really brought me to where I am. I mean, so I'm the people that I'm helping are like grandchildren to your work, because I really appreciate all that you have, taught, and you teach it in such a way that it just makes it matter of factly, and you are always honoring of where everybody's coming from, and yet true to yourself, which is, really, really helpful to those of us that are just that when you come into it new and you're just got that traumatized face, because
here, let me help you.
Yes.
We've covered a lot. I want to give women a starting point. It's where do I start? I would start at dressing your truth. There's two places. If the healing really speaks to you, go to healwithcarol.com basics guide.
Okay.
Addressing your truth is really getting your attention. You go to dressingyourtruth.com /free offer.
Okay.
Or you go to either just healwithcarol.com or dressingyourtruth.com. It will
Yep.
get you.
Yeah, we'll put the links.
I have some free courses that you don't have to spend. I want you to have an experience first. I don't want you to make a decision about making a financial investment. I'd love for you to have an experience first.
Yeah, and
all I ask for is an email.
Yep. And I attest that there's so much to learn. There's so much that you give and teach. There's a lot. You give a lot.
Start in YouTube world.
Yeah.
It's not organized, but it's all there.
Right. Yep.
I have a lot of free content, no question.
You do. And it's very helpful. You can shift quickly with just a Google of Carol Tuttle, I will say, for sure. Well, we always ask, because we are the Wholeness Network, and remembering wholeness. I know wholeness is something that you talk about and think about, but we always ask, what does wholeness mean to you? What does that idea mean to you?
I believe that, and I teach this in the book in Remembering Wholeness, that there's no challenge, no adversity, no thing that we're up against that we didn't come with the answers on some level and the embodiment of God's grace to assist us. It's just, again, awakening that, being willing to take the blinders off at times, being willing to be accountable. But I believe we have been equipped with what we need to be successful, and that God's got our back. I'm a big believer in the grace of the divine to make up the difference. And I've seen that my career has been a journey of trusting my inspiration and really being one of a prayerful effort to ask what's next, what's correct, and how can I serve? Mm-hmm. And I had to get my own stuff together. I know in the early days of my career, I was working on me as much as I was in my efforts to help others. And I'm at a place now that I'm kind of like, well, okay, now I can purely help. I can truly serve 100% because I've taken care of all of my stress and disruptions, and I have a really lovely life. It's very drama-free. It is drama-free. You get to a point when you hit this place of peace and tranquility, especially on the inner world, it's a lot quieter because you're not chattering all these things and thinking about what people think, and you're not worried about. I don't worry. I trust. And then your days go really smoothly. Good things happen and fall into place. And it almost feels a little boring because you're not up against this stuff. You have to train yourself to live in this place of affluence in a quieter inner world. And you do get to the point where it's like your relationships can change. I'd give spouses some growing room. They may not approach it the same way in the same timeline, but the potential of them that we hold. One of the things my husband will include in his prayers that I actually teach in Remembering Wholeness is asking God, help me see this person as you see them, to hold that perception of them. Now, if there's hostility to the point of abuse, and there needs to be clear boundaries. Boundaries are perfectly acceptable. It's not a take whatever you get. It's loving yourself as a quality of creating boundaries and saying, no, that's not okay. And this is how I deserve to be. There's a lot of learning in the process of wholeness. And it's not just something you wake it up into one day. You become it. It's there for you. You're born with it. You carry it, but you have to bring it to life, basically.
Feel empowered every day with wholeness videos, meditations, downloads, classes, and more by joining the Wholeness Library at thewholenessnetwork.com.